How many of these have you been to?
1990. First one. San Francisco and the Broncos. I'll tell you a story about that. You ready for that?
Please, I'm ready for it.
So there was no radio stations there. Mike and me in the Hyatt lobby in New Orleans. You know, Eddie Edelman from EEI was there, and I think Eskin was there in the local radio. So there's nobody there, no radio row, nothing. So during the week, first part of the week, we have Summerall Madden on. That was a CBS game.
Right.
So we have Summerall Madden on, and, you know, they do their thing, and, you know, they both of them together. It was probably Tuesday, and Madden tells me and Mike, when he was leaving, says, hey, guys, come to my hotel one day this week. I got to show you some stuff. So whatever day that was, you know, he had a little boutique hotel on Bourbon Street.
Right.
So we get in the car, probably the next day, we got there in the morning, go up to his room. He's got the big telestrator up, his little hotel, his big hotel room there. It's probably a suite. And he says, let me show you this. So he takes the video out, camera. Rice does this, Taylor does that. They can't do this. Montana, look at this offensive line. They can't guard. He said, guys, you didn't hear me say this? Denver does not have a chance in this game. This is a disaster written all over it. 55-10 San Francisco.
Wow. No, you didn't finish the story, though. You did not finish the story. Where did you go to bet that game at that point?
I didn't bet it then.
I can't believe that.
No, I didn't. I didn't start the betting until later. I didn't bet that game. Now, I did fly home on Sunday. I didn't stay for the game, and I flew home with Sam Weish. New Orleans, Cincinnati, New York, and I watched the game in New York, and it was over, 20 minutes into the game at 55-10. That was their second of the two, and then the Giants the next year win the three-peat game.
Right.
And that's the fumble by Craig and Burt Eric Howard recovered it, and then, of course, Barr kicked the field goal.
And that's when Belichick got the Patriot job, the Browns job. That's after that game, after that Super Bowl.
And George Young always used to tell me, Mike, that under any circumstances, he was never hiring Belichick as his head coach because he didn't like Belichick.
Right.
Thought he was a great coach, hated him as a person.
Right.
And he told me 20 times in that 89-90 period, I am not hiring Belichick. And as it turns out, now Bill left in May, which put him in a tough spot. And George said, hey, don't kill me on Hanley. Bill loved Hanley, too. They all thought Hanley was going to be a good coach.
Right, yeah. We don't even know
he was there 2 years.
We don't even know where Ray Hanley is. He
was in Vegas.
He was living in Vegas, yeah.
Now, remember, Bill put him in a tough spot because they had a quarterback controversy.
Right.
Because Phil was 10-1, broke his ankle. They brought Hostetler in, and Hostetler won the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So Bill leaves in May. Hanley comes in. He's got two quarterbacks who both want to play, and both have won Super Bowls.
Yep.
That's a very tricky spot.
And the team was getting older.
They were getting older.
Yeah, that was their run.
Where do you sit on Bill not having a job this cycle?
I'm surprised. I really am, and I should ask Mike with the story here about Blank. You saw that with Boomer Esiason yesterday. Do you think Blank offered him the job and he said no?
I think Blank wanted to hire him. And I think it was his job all along. And I truly believe that from the time he left the yacht down in the islands on Blank's yacht till he went back to Atlanta to meet everybody, that the front office and everybody from Rich McKay to Terry Fontenot kind of convinced Blank to change his mind.
All right.
I believe part of what Boomer's saying is that Blank wanted to hire him. I think Blank really wanted to hire him.
But you don't think Bill turned him down?
I don't think it was a turn down. I think what happened was the momentum was built because they all were saying, well, we won't have a collaborative effort. Nobody will listen to us.
Yeah.
And he would have changed the way. See, everybody thinks he was going to change the way of with power and all this. But there's some things that he would want to do, like in contracts. They had no contracts that had off-season workout bonuses. And that's big for Belichick. He wants the players in the program in the off-season to work out.
And they had no bonus clauses in their contract.
They had none of that. So now that means they got to change how they do contracts. People hate change.
I got you. So there was a combination of things. But I am surprised. I do think Belichick will coach again. I don't think Pete Carroll will. But I do think Pete, and I did Nashville radio yesterday, and they said it's 50-50 in Nashville on Vrabel, and they said a big knock on Vrabel in Nashville, and you're a Vrabel fan, is the offensive coordinators he hired were terrible.
And that's always been a problem with them. And, and they've been able to overcome it. They beat Baltimore in the playoff. They've been, I think it's a little unfair on this. They've been stuck with Henry, and they got to run. If you're going to go with Henry, you got to go with that offense. And so he kind of traps you into thinking what you're going to do. I think Vrabel will rise again.
No, I think so too. I think both him and Belichick will coach again. I don't know about Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about him, but I think the other two will. I know Belichick is 73 years old, but somebody will make a run out of next year wanting to win quickly. That would be my take on that.
I think age, as you get older, you get better at what you do.
Fair too. So I do think he'll coach.
So because you are a betting man, I have to know, obviously you guys go at it every single week on the radio against each other, but like Michael always comes on our show saying, I don't know where Mad Dog's getting these numbers at. So you must be the sharpest bettor of all time, according to Michael, in these numbers.
He gets annoyed with the lines, and he wants those lines operated very, very carefully. And he's annoyed also, and we gave him one because Seattle early in the year, he took Seattle against San Francisco, and then Geno got hurt.
That day.
And he bet, and he picked
I remember talking about this.
And he was annoyed, so, because he made the pick at 5, then he finds out later that it's not Geno.
I never would have done that if Geno said
I would have done the same for him. I would have felt the same way for him. There was one time he was going to make a bet, and I said, no, you can't do that. That line's completely different, and he backed off of it. So I want it fair, and look, I won the contest without that game anyway.
Barely. He did. He won by half a game. Now, remember, in real life, if I make the play on a Friday afternoon thinking Geno's going to play, and then 4 hours later I find out he's not going to play, they're not going to give me the bet back.
No, but I can go to the table and make another bet to offset that play. See, that's what you can do.
I guess you're right.
You can do that.
So are you getting a mysterious 3 on Kansas City this week?
No,
you think? Could
it's
you find
too late
one out
for him
there?
to get the 3.
Was there a mysterious 3 going on?
Well, we have people on our network that take the Chiefs and 3 points, and I can't find the 3 points anywhere. I can't find 3 points.
I do love the Chiefs to win the game.
I know you've been all over this Mahomes thing, and you said it last week.
He's not losing a Purdy. I'm sorry. No way.
I remember last year you saying you were Chiefs out. So how do you feel now?
Well, I've been betting them lately, so
I
feel
better about it.
I bet him against Buffalo, and I was fortunate. And I bet him against Lamar because I don't trust him in a big game, and I was fortunate with that too. You know me. I've been.
You've been on him. Now let me ask you this question.
I'm worried about him in a big game.
Let me ask you this. You're a historian. Like, where would you put Mahomes if he wins this one?
I think Mahomes is. You've heard me all week. I think he's the best quarterback I've ever seen. Now. See, to me, it's 2 different arguments. That's just a point of where he is. Like Sandy Koufax is the best pitcher of all time at his peak, but he didn't do it long enough, so you can't say he's the best pitcher.
You would take Koufax over Gibson?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
Oh, yeah, Koufax was absolutely.
So you have like different categories, like best winner, best skill, best.
There's a little. I had Laver and Roy Emerson tell me many a time that the best player pound for pound in tennis they ever faced was Lou Holtz.
Really?
But nobody would say Lou Holtz the best player of all time. Same thing with Mahomes. I think, to me, if I had a game to win for my life, I would take Mahomes. But I can't say he's the best of all time necessarily because he's got 2 Super Bowls and Brady's got 7. Montana's got 4. But listen, I've never, outside of the second half against Cincinnati, when he did not play well.
Right.
He was the reason they lost that game.
Correct.
Outside of that game, and I give him a break against Tampa in the Super Bowl. Andy did a terrible job at the offensive line. I think he was all fouled up with his kid with the car accident.
Exactly was, correct.
So I think he lost a little focus, and Tampa took advantage. So I'm going to give Mahomes a break. I don't think I've ever seen Mahomes at 14-3 have a bad playoff game. So I'm going to bet him on Sunday.
He scored 21 points in the last Super Bowl. He threw 2 interceptions in that last Super Bowl against the Niners, and then he just had the great fourth quarter.
He had a great fourth, and Richard Sherman on 3rd and 15. He had that play to Tyreek Hill. Listen, part of me thinks the Niners are due. They lost to him in 19. They could have won. Shanahan's been at this point a lot in his career, so eventually he'll break through, so I can understand that. And they're going to hear about how everybody thinks that Kansas City and haven't played that well. Here's the thing I was worried about the Niners, though. The Niners told everybody after the Green Bay game, we know we played lousy. We'll play better the next game.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they made McCaffrey. We stunk. We'll play better. And they stunk against Green Bay, too. They shouldn't have beaten the Green Bay. They shouldn't have Detroit. Shouldn't have won the game.
No, that's right.
I can't take them seriously.
Well, and Michael, you've said all week long that they haven't even played their B game yet.
Yeah, they haven't played a good game yet. I mean, they're here and they haven't played their best game. Not even close to their best game.
And they didn't play well late in the year.
No,
Ravens,
they haven't. They haven't played well.
The Rams, I know the game didn't mean anything. They lost to them, too. So I will take the Chiefs. I trust the Chiefs.
He's got his 60-point play. He's going to take the Chiefs in the 2 points.
I'm going to take them.
We've only got 30 seconds left, but I am very curious. Like, how do you take care of your voice for all of the yelling at Stephen A. and Michael that you do?
I haven't had. I've had it twice where I had laryngitis and I couldn't talk for a week. It drove me crazy. I had it once at FAN.
His wife was the happiest she'd ever been in her life.
That's exactly right. I had it twice, and I haven't had it since. My voice has stood up pretty good. And I got him every Friday, and he's the best here, so I have a lot of laughs from Mr. Lombardi.
So great. Frank Caliendo, comedian, actor, impressionist extraordinaire. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, great to be here. Tremendous.
Did you bring everybody with you?
Oh, yeah, it's always. Everybody's, the Rolodex is ready to go.
Are you ready to fire away?
The magic. Every time he ever texts me, I send him something or he sends, thanks, John.
I love that.
He gives me the old school Pat Summerall.
Yeah, I love it.
I could even bring up Pat Summerall to 90% of people. Right? Oh, football fans I could.
Right.
But, like.
You don't think nobody knows Pat Summerall outside the football world?
Not if they stop playing Madden.
I guess you're right.
He wasn't even in the Madden video game,
I think.
that's
it shows you how old I am. That's horrible.
Madden 95, Madden 92, to the 20, to the 25. There's a flag on the play.
I know that they don't know he was a kicker in the league and he played in the NFL. I get that, but the voice is just so magnetic.
Well, could you even do that I don't think the broadcaster would be allowed to talk as little in the way Pat Summerall did with just phrases. Like somebody going down the field, they're going to want you to describe a lot more. They're paying you a lot of money.
Yeah.
Not that those guys weren't getting paid, but to the 20, to the 25. Touchdown. Like it's
so
understated.
Calm.
Like
so calm.
Yeah, it's like nothing. I mean, it makes Nance seem like he's over the top, right?
Yeah, right.
But,
so you got Barkley's got his own show. He's got the TNT. Is he giving you a lot more material?
I haven't seen much of it yet. So the
Gayle King show with him?
No, I've got to watch more. But it's kind of like life imitating art, because one of my bits was that Charles Barkley's the guy I love because he's always honest, and he gives you even if stuff you don't want to hear in the news. And now he's got that show with Gayle King, and it does seem perfect. I'm going to tell you exactly what I think about is going on, and it's crazy. Like at least he does. I have seen a couple of clips. I haven't watched the show particularly yet, but at least he does more research on the topics than he does before the NCAA basketball tournament. When he's like, look over there, there's number 25 with the white shoes and the red stripes. No, you got to know who the guy is.
Yes.
Not really, because nobody else does.
So it is interesting that you mentioned, like, talking about sports people specifically, because we know you and you're so well known for all of the sports impressions that you do, but you talk to a wider audience as well. Is it tough to balance, like, getting other celebrities in addition to sports personalities, or how does that work for you?
In terms of doing my act, a show or something, I try to make it much broader now. Now I do all the sports stuff while I'm here. But in terms of a show, I've even talked to comedy clubs about that recently, where they're showing old clips of John Madden to sell tickets for me. And I'm like, people don't know that stuff. Like, the people who do know already know that I'm coming here.
Right.
So you got to show them that there's some different stuff. So, yeah, it's a fun thing. I do the Madden stuff, and I do the Madden stuff here at the Super Bowl because he's, boom, it's the right place. So, and the other question people are asking me a lot about is, like, am I working on any of the other broadcasters? Here's the thing. A little bit yes and no. But the Romo, which I've talked to you about before, I've just turned Tony Romo into revving up a car. That's all it is. Like, oh, Jim, here we go, Jim. Oh, it's so good.
He's got a good life for doing that, right?
I mean, it's kind of amazing because he went from being Nostradamus to not knowing anything. Like,
I mean,
it has been a flip.
He's like, oh, their trip's right. They're going to make it. There's going to be a slant to the left where they're not even looking. The defense isn't ready for that. They're playing partial zone on that side. Here we go, Jim. And now it's like, what's he going to do, Jim? That's exactly what's going to happen. Let's go to Jay Feely. And then Jay Feely's like, I'm a kicker. He's like, oh, it's so good, Jim. Tony. So the energy. Like, what I love about Romo is he's another one, the honesty and he's a kid in a candy store, right? When I watch him or listen to him, I just love, Jim. It's like he's got sweet tarts over here and Three Musketeers right there. There's Juji fruits, and it doesn't get any better than this. Have
you ever done Jim to Jim, or do you have any stories where you've done the impression in front of the person?
Yeah, there's some of those, but actually, Mike was the one who got Jim Nance to call me. So Jim Nance left me a message, and it was Frankie, which I wish he would have said, hello, Frank, Jim Nance.
Hello, friends.
Hello, Frankie. And we talked a little bit about it because they've actually done the bit a little bit. It's weird in sports because sometimes people are put on pedestals their entire lives, especially the former coaches that become announcers or analysts or whatever. it's a harder time. If you're in the club, it's easier for a former coach or somebody. If you played football, they're willing to let you play more with it. I got more known for that kind of stuff, so I think I got a little bit more leeway. But it's an odd thing when you're doing a voice of somebody or breaking stuff down. I think sometimes people get worried it's going to cost them money. I've heard that. They're like, if you do this, it's not going to put me on, it's going to make people make fun. No, it makes it easier for Madison Avenue and the advertisers to write for you. And now you can get more commercials from it. Like Barkley's always said, Frank, keep doing me. Yeah. Because every time you do it, I make more money.
I mean, it's true. I think it's good. How long does it take you to perfect? Like, you got the election coming up, right? So this is going to be big for you. So you got a lot of characters out there.
A lot of voices in your head,
A lot of voices in your head. How long does it take you to go from, I got to do that person, him or her, to, I got it?
Well, I mean, most of the time it's a work in progress, and you got to put it out there before it's ready sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think that's almost like, if you're going to make the sports analogy, I think it's almost like making reads and trying to figure out what's going to be enough of to sell it to make the point. I don't know. I listened to old John Madden when people thought I was doing John Madden. Hey, folks, John Madden. I was like, what is that? And people thought it was great. So I don't know. If people laugh, then it's good enough. It doesn't have to be dead on. It can just be something that works and makes you think of the person. Yeah. But then now with social media, people will complain that it's, they'll be that.
Well, they complain about anything on social media, so you can't do that. But you, like the mannerisms that as Stormy mentioned this too, is it's not just the voice, it's the way you move and the way you deliver it is so perfect.
Yeah, well, I think that adds to it. I always say that the mouth tells you how they talk and the eyes tell you how they think. So if you're doing the impression of a person, like when I do the Tony Romo, I'm just thinking that smile. He's got that smile on his face, and he's talking out on one side. There it is. Oh, so good. So I think about that. I kind of picture the person, and that's what I see, and I kind of believe that I'm that person putting that out there. And then you can kind of think more in their way of thinking. But some people that there's just voices I can't figure out, and there's lots of them, and you just find a little clip. Or I was talking to somebody. Talking about Peyton Manning, which I can't do a Peyton Manning, but I can find a word. Weird. Yeah. He's got that one. Hey, Eli, that's kind of weird. See how that? But that's all. Great. It's like, weird.
You kind of get into it in the way.
3 syllables. Right. That weird is 1 syllable, except if you're Peyton Manning. That's weird. Eli, that's kind of weird.
I personally love the Pacino, and so I was wondering if you could get into that and give my 49ers a little bit of a pregame speech, potentially.
We got to fight for every inch of every foot, of every yard, of every, I don't know what comes next in the Kings.
With the
measurement system.
There's so many variations of Pacino. Like, when I see him now, like, he's not Michael Corleone. Like, I don't even know where that came from.
It was way up in the afternoon. He was way up here.
There you go. That's it.
And then he became a Southern general.
Yeah, that's right.
How are we? How we doing?
Yes.
Yeah. The whole U.S. Army retired. Frank Slade.
There it is.
Do you have a favorite voice? I feel like that's got to be hard because you have so many that you can do.
I mean, they're newer, they're more interesting. I mean, that's the thing for me. I have more fun with the comparison of voices. I don't know if I've done that for you before, but the Kermit the Frog is there's Muppets, and because Muppets aren't the actual voice, they're constructed like a cartoon character. Kermit the Frog, hey ho, Kermit the Frog here, right? You got that voice, and then Fozzie Bear is waka waka waka. So that's also, hey, Bert, Ernie. No, those two voices. Those two combined to get you with a Texas accent, Patrick Mahomes.
That's what I was going to ask. I was like, Kermit is kind of...
Well, it's actually in between kind of the two. And when you think about those kind of things that, we're doing everything we can to get out there and just do what we can. And Coach Reid said we're going to make our way through it. And I just hope we do our best. A couple of distractions, we'll figure out a way.
So, Patrick, are you guys going to win the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I don't. We just go out there and play our best.
I don't want to get letters.
How about Jack Nicholson? Do you still get any requests for him?
Just from you, sir.
I was going to say I'm that old.
Well, here's the thing. That's an interesting one. Because I did a whole morphing, and then
Patrick Mahomes in here, and if
you go down, that becomes the John C. Reilly. did you touch my drum set, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Put some air in it. It's Mark Ruffalo. I see this as an absolute win. I had no idea he was even going to do that. And then if you bring it down, it becomes Paul Giamatti.
Yeah.
I believe that is one of the craziest things I've ever heard in my entire life. Now, when I do Paul Giamatti, this comes back to what you were saying. People think it's Jack Nicholson, and I have to disagree.
Yeah.
It's slightly different, but somewhat similar.
Peter King, NBC Sports Football Morning in America, stopping by the desk. Appreciate it. So you got in town on Monday. Over under 30 interviews that you've had to do, set up. Where are we sitting?
No. Stormy, what I do is I arrange them all in one day. And
wow.
I did 14 yesterday, plus recorded my podcast and did 45 minutes with Florio and Sims on the PFT show. And that's all I was going to do. And then, Mike, you or your producer called like last Friday and asked for Wednesday, I think. Today's Wednesday. And I said, okay, I could not have squeezed in another. So this will be my last public pronouncement of the week, and I'm damn glad about it.
And you're going to disappear and get ready for the game. So you rode with Kyle, which I always love when reading about when you ride with the coaches and you kind of get to know him. What was on his mind on that Tuesday morning when you drove? Because, and let me give a little back. I got to believe he doesn't think that team's played their A game yet.
Right.
And so, like, he's driving into work. He's got to be thinking, when are we going to play better?
Well, I had 12 topics to talk to Kyle about. I had them in my phone, and I only got to 5 of them. And we had 80 minutes together.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's an 80-minute commute for him?
No, but we sat in his parking space for about a half hour.
Got it.
And but understand something, Mike. This was last Tuesday. He had not done anywhere near his game. He hadn't even finished watching the Baltimore-Kansas City game. Mm-hmm. So he was not in any position to say, oh, here's what I think we have to do. Man, Pacheco's dangerous. Or he just didn't know yet. But I think he believes, especially with the fact that, his quarterback is really a cool cucumber, that they're going to play a better 60-minute game in the Super Bowl than they've played in either game so far. Mm.
We saw up on the screen a moment ago, Ed Werder pointed out, all of these other coaching interviews you've done, it's been pretty dark outside when these coaches are going in. Anything to this, Shanahan, in the daylight? Or was that after the half an hour sitting in the car in the parking lot?
No, that was on the way there. Here's the thing. I met Kyle at 7 a.m. at his house in southern, Silicon Valley. And because he had not slept.
Wow.
He needed to sleep on Monday night. That was the most important thing for him. And so he slept, and I think when I got there at 5 minutes to 7, and I'm standing outside and his dog is barking, I honestly think I woke him up.
Well, you have to celebrate that NFC Championship for a moment that you get to.
But all of these guys, every one of them, I mean, look, Doug Peterson, it was 5 a.m. Sean McVay was 4:20 in Encino, California. Andy Reid, 3:07 a.m. He picked me up at the Intercontinental Hotel in Kansas City. There's Zach Taylor at the bottom. He's just getting ready to stop at a Starbucks in Cincinnati. And obviously there's Nick Sirianni last year in Haddonfield, New Jersey. And then there's Kyle in Los Altos, California. But I will just say this. A bunch of people wrote to me and said, man, is Kyle all in? Sleeping that much? And, I mean, look at Andy. He was up at 3:15 or whatever. And, Mike, I'll just tell you this. When you get to be a person of a certain age, you wake up during the night because you got to use the restroom. And Andy always thought that by the time I get up, I can't go back to sleep anyway because my mind is going a million miles an hour. And so he said, I need just to go to work. So that's why he goes to work so early. I walked in with Andy that day. And you know what was really cool? Obviously, there's nobody there.
Right.
And he said, I will have 90 minutes to myself before anybody gets here. And he goes, it's the greatest time of the day.
Yeah, and I read where he journals every day.
Yes,
and
he's amazing. You know what is amazing? I found out about this because a friend of mine is Mormon. And he goes, that's a big Mormon thing.
Oh, really?
And I did not ask Andy if it was because he's a Mormon. But he goes, when you're in high school and you're a Mormon, you are told you need to start journaling. And, Mike, I have to tell you about this. He pulls the I said, can I see it? He didn't want me to read it, but he showed it to me. Okay, and what was so interesting about that journal, his penmanship is beautiful. It is precise. There's no scribble. Andy Reid's cursive, it looks like he could teach penmanship in school. That was pretty amazing.
That's amazing, and I think whether it's Mormon or Jesuit, that reflection, that time, you kind of clear your mind, and you really get a sense of it.
You know what? Can I just tell you one other thing, Mike? That I have now sat with Andy Reid for 15 minutes after 3 games this year. The one in Frankfurt against Miami when their offense was awful. The one in Foxborough when they pulled that play out of the 1940s to score a touchdown at the goal line. And obviously the one in Buffalo. And all I can say, I hear these rumors about Andy Reid's going to retire or he might retire. Look, I don't know. Who knows? He might. But I got to tell you something. Sitting with him on that Sunday evening in Buffalo, I can just tell you, he was the happiest dude in the world. And he was savoring. He didn't want to leave.
Sure.
But there was nobody left in the locker room. And he didn't want to leave. He just wanted to savor that win. I just don't
I don't
believe
know. I agree with you. I think he just loves – I think what we miss a lot of is the coaches like these guys that you all have – the process is better than anything. They love the process, and that's where Mike Vrabel and Belichick, as they leave this year and not coach, they're going to miss the process.
Yeah.
And that's the hard thing. Having been in the NFL and then I leave the NFL, the routine, the process, the next opponent always is what kind of derails you. And if you don't change how your routine, that you have to change your routine to fit to another routine.
Yeah.
That's going to be the hard thing for Vrabel and for Bill. You got to go somewhere. And I think that's why I'm not sure Andy's ready to say goodbye. It just, to me, he loves this routine too much.
Can I give you one other note about my ride to Kyle? It's going to really make you unhappy. And it's going to make everybody at DraftKings unhappy. I'm using it in my column on Monday. I just didn't, I wrote 3,000 words on the guy. I just didn't have enough room, time, whatever. But Kyle, at one point, goes on this long riff. I cannot believe people gamble on this game. I just can't believe it. Because I think that I know more than anybody coming into a game. And most of the time, I'm totally, absolutely 180 degrees wrong. And so he goes, I cannot believe all these people gamble on it because what do they know? What do they know? I don't know.
It's funny you say that. One of the things I think that have been around Belichick for as long as I have, I think the greatest time of my life, and I have it all in my OneNote, is the Saturday night meetings with the coaches. Where he tells the staff how the game is going to go, and it goes exactly that way.
Wow.
It goes exactly that. He's never, and you can ask Nick Saban. Nick Saban and I sat together in 1994. We get ready to play the Eagles. We're both 6-2, and he went over the game, and Nick and I looked at each other and said, what is he smoking? This is not going to go that way. And it did. And you could talk to anybody, and I wish they would have filmed some of this for the Hall of Fame because it's really – like Kyle said, it's so hard to predict, right?
Yeah.
You just don't know it. The ball bounces a different way, but the matchups, the way the matchups go, he was really so good at that. And I think to me, that's the mark of a great coach, and like he does, he admits he doesn't know. I mean, that's a great strength right there.
Yeah.
And Peter, these last couple minutes, let's go down that road for you. Then you know these teams so well. You know the coaches. You talk to the players. Do you have a feel for what you think might happen on Sunday?
I just would never pick against Mahomes.
Is that simple?
The rest of my life, I'll never pick against Mahomes. I mean, he might lose, and again, I'm glad that I don't gamble. I'm terrible at it. I'm terrible at picking things. But I just have this feeling that, look, I believe Kyle Shanahan when he says Brock Purdy is an absolute rock-solid assassin. I get it, and he is. But never been on this stage before.
No, I know. But why is it that he can't get the love that Kurt Warner got, and they both had the same journey?
How about what Kyle said to me about that? He goes, I'm not comparing Brock Purdy to Joe Montana. But what would they be saying today in Joe Montana's second year after being a low third-round pick?
Exactly.
Because Joe didn't have any weapons, did he?
No, but I mean,
all I'm saying is he believes that Brock Purdy just does what he tells him to do, and he does it very well.
And he's accurate. You don't have this many yards after the catch without accuracy from the quarterback.
Yeah.
You know, and I know Debo's great, and I know all that. Kurt Warner had great players. Torrey Holt, Hakeem, you know, all these guys, and Marshall Faulk in the backfield, right? But, you know, Isaac Bruce, you know, and nobody called him a game manager.
No. I think it's ridiculous.
It is.
I hate it.
Well, thank you for stopping by.
No problem,
appreciate it.
Your final stop.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very pleased about that.